Hi, I'm Tyler, and welcome to another episode of my Christian Music Week reviews. Each week I take 5 releases, albums, EPs, or singles, and after I listen to them all week, I come back here and I review them. I share what I think about them. So without further ado, let's get to this week's first release, Clemmons' new single, Keep On Hoping. Clemmons' new single, Keep On Hoping. Let's talk about it. So, stylistically here, kind of an upbeat pop track overall, I would say. Has bass guitar, bass, drums, synth, and also gospel choir singing the title and the chorus. And as for the lyrics here, great lyrics here. Talks about how even in these dark days, keep on hoping for a brighter day. God is still good and in control. Up next, Demon Hunters' new reimagined album, Songs of Death and Resurrection. Demon Hunter's new album, reimagined album, Songs of Death and Resurrection. Let's talk about it. So, sound-wise here, well, it's worth knowing none of the tracks they reimagined were the tracks that had screaming on them, so they're more metalcore tracks, weren't necessarily reimagined here, but some of the original tracks were pretty heavy. But anyhow, let's dive into how the reimagined version sound. So, kind of overall, a dark, mellow feel, I would say, is the best way to describe it. Some puffiness is retained, though, and even a couple of the reimagined versions sound pretty upbeat, but overall, kind of a dark, mellow feel. Good album here, though, listening to stuff that is this mellow over the course of an album can feel a little too mellow after a while for me personally, but overall, doesn't take away from the fact that overall, though, this is a good album. Just get a little mellow if you're listening to it for an extended period of time like I was to review it. And what instruments make this album sound the way it does? Acoustic guitar, piano, violin, and drum are the instruments that dominate. And as for the lyrics here, kind of a neat theme here, neat themes that run throughout the tracks here. Talks about being in this dark place of being dead, but through faith in Jesus' grace, you can become alive once more. Up next, Feucht's and Kim Walker-Smith's new album, Us Worship Azuza. Feucht and Kim Walker-Smith's new album, Us Worship Azusa. Let's talk about it. So, before I dive into this album, let me just explain what Let Us Worship is. It's a movement that Feucht is doing to encourage people to stand up for their freedom, for us as Christians, to stand up for our freedom to worship. Now, let's dive into the actual album here. So, pretty good album here. Seemed like it was a good concert there in Azusa. And it is accurate to term it as a collaborative release, since it seems like Kim Walker-Smith and Feucht, being the main vocalist, gets split pretty evenly overall. So, accurate to term it both their album, even though it's Sean's movement. Let's talk about the sound here, though. So, electric guitar, some bass guitar too, though, and then some drum, piano, and some violin as well. And as for the lyrics here, pretty good lyrics here, touches on a few different themes. Talks about asking for a fresh outpouring of the Holy Spirit to wake up our dead hearts. Also talks about how when we praise Jesus, it changes everything, and also talks about following him in everything and how God reigns over everything. Up next, Kj52 and Jonah's new album, 1 year ago. Kj52's comeback album, or Jonah's debut album, however you want to put it. Let's talk about 1 year ago. Same person, by the way. So let's dive into it. Pretty good album here. Of course, rapping, with it being KJ, sound-wise here. And they're singing on 2 of the hooks. And also, instrumentally here, we have piano, drum, bass, synth. And as for the lyrics here, kind of divides into 2 parts. So the first part kind of focuses on KJ personally, and talks about how 1 year ago he thought his career was done, but when he can see a way, because of God, he's making it. And the second part kind of talks more about things in the world in general. Like, by the way, second part and first part do kind of unite well when you think about it, but I'll explain the second part and then it'll make sense. The second part talks about things like COVID and racial injustice. Rise encourages us to take a stand for the fact that Black lives do matter. But the overall theme of the second half talks about how, in the midst of the craziness of the world with things like COVID, racial injustice, talks about choosing faith over fear and trusting that God will provide. Up next, our last release for today, soon to be former 10th Avenue North lead singer Mike Donehey's debut EP, Work of Art. Mike Donehey of 10th Avenue North's new EP, Work of Art. And the reason I said soon to be former lead singer of 10th Avenue North is because 10th Avenue North is disbanding, but they do have one more show coming up, so technically still their lead singer, but soon to be just on his own as solo artist. So let's dive into it. Pretty good solo debut here. Definitely has more of a singer-songwriter feel to it, I would say, than what 10th Avenue North stuff is. Sound-wise here, it's piano, drum, some degree of bass guitar and violin as well. And as for the lyrics here, kind of like the KJ album, divides into 2 parts, kind of, so to speak. So the first couple tracks talk about allowing a safe space for pain to be expressed without getting defensive. And the second half talks about choosing to stay in love with his wife even when it's a work of art, with the belief that it will get better. So pretty good lyrics, cool themes on here too. Well, that's it for this week. Come back next week for 5 more releases. If you like what you saw in this video, please subscribe. Also, if you have any thoughts on today's releases or what I said about them, let me know down in the comments below. Also, be sure to check out my playlist section for the monthly My Music Muffin Streams playlist. That is on YouTube and Spotify. And also, be sure to know that I release videos every week, Friday at 9:30 a.m. Pacific Time. Well, I'll go now. See you next week. Bye!